Welcome back to the Observable Unknown. Collapse has a public relations problem. Human beings imagine it dramatically. We imagine explosions, revolutions, financial panics, burning cities, catastrophic headlines. Most collapse is considerably less theatrical. In fact, most collapse arrives disguised as ordinary life, a missed obligation, a postponed conversation, a neglected friendship, or a compromised standard. Sometimes it could be as simple as a deferred responsibility, nothing large enough to attract attention, nothing alarming enough to provoke any real correction. And because nothing appears broken, everything continues. Until one day the accumulated deviation becomes impossible to ignore. The difficulty is that drift rarely feels dangerous while it's happening. In fact, it often feels comfortable enough to avoid examination, to avoid resistance, or even to avoid change. At the University of California, Los Angeles, geographer and historian Jared Diamond spent decades studying the rise and collapse of civilizations. Across cultures separated by geography, language, religion, and time, one pattern appeared repeatedly. Civilizations rarely fail because they encounter problems. Every civilization encounters problems. Civilizations fail when they stop responding to them. The warning signs often arrive years before the collapse, sometimes generations before. The information exists, the danger exists. Plenty of evidence is present. What disappears is the willingness to act. The problem isn't ignorance, the problem is drift. At the University of Leeds and later the University of Warsaw, sociologist Zygmunt Bauman described modern life as increasingly liquid. Structures once considered stable became temporary. Communities weakened. Identities shifted. Commitments shortened. Permanence became negotiable. Bauman observed that modern people possess unprecedented freedom of movement, yet many struggle to maintain continuity, not because they lack options, but because they possess too many. The self becomes perpetually adjustable, revisible, and unfinished. Slowly, orientation begins dissolving beneath flexibility. This may be one of the least recognized forms of drift, not moving in the wrong direction, but losing any stable direction at all. A person changes careers repeatedly. They might change relationships and beliefs repeatedly as well. Perhaps they adjust their goals with high regularity. They might move from city to city with great frequency. They might circulate their friends' circle with enormous regularity. Each decision appears rational in isolation. Viewed together, a pattern emerges. Motion without trajectory. This is where drift becomes difficult to detect, because movement creates the illusion of progress, activity creates the illusion of purpose, and change creates the illusion of development. None of those things are guaranteed. A ship can travel thousands of miles while moving steadily away from its destination. Within my system of temporal architecture, drift might be understood as prolonged movement without recalibration. A person remains active, the system remains functional, yet orientation gradually weakens. The calendar fills, the days pass, obligations multiply, and eventually the individual discovers that activity has replaced direction. This appears in families, organizations, religious traditions, governments, entire cultures. Standards soften, expectations lower, exceptions multiply. Short-term convenience replaces long-term stewardship. No single compromise appears fatal. The accumulation becomes fatal. The unsettling reality is that drift rarely announces itself. There's no ceremony or warning bell. There's no visible threshold to consider. Only gradual distance between where a person intended to go and where they're now arriving. This is why periodic self-examination matters immensely. Not as self-criticism, but instead as navigation. A navigator doesn't check direction because disasters occurred. A navigator checks direction to prevent disaster from occurring. The most dangerous question in life may not be, am I failing? Instead, it may be, am I still pointed where I intended to go? Because many lives don't collapse. they simply drift into oblivion, and drift can carry a person very far before they even realize they're lost. The tragedy isn't movement, the tragedy is forgetting the destination. If this interlude helped you recognize a course correction worth making, make that known to others. Leave a rating or a review, not for recognition, but for signal. So orientation reaches places where motion has mistaken itself for progress for far too long. Until next time, remember, you don't become what you feel, you become what you return to. And what you return to returns as you.